Hello, hello. I'm Athena Ali, the Get Noticed coach, career strategist, and public service job application specialist. Welcome to my live broadcast today on the 3 mistakes you're making with your key selection criteria when you're applying for roles, $100,000 and upwards, so 6-figure roles. But before I start today, I'd like to do an acknowledgement to country. So in the spirit of reconciliation, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to the land, sea and community. I'd like to thank them for this beautiful suburb that I live in. I live on Wurundjeri country, or Woi Wurrung land. We've got beautiful trees and birds here, and even some lakes, and just beautiful country here. So I'd like to really thank them, especially pay respects to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. So thank you. Now, in this weekly live, let's find out or discuss the 3 mistakes you're making with your key selection criteria when you're applying for roles, 100K plus, 6-figure roles, okay? Now, if you're here live, say hi in the comments below. If you're watching the replay, add hashtag replay in the comments so I can see who's been here. And you can also view this on my YouTube channel if for some reason you lose connection here on Facebook or on LinkedIn. Okay, so we're going to talk about today those 3 mistakes that you're making with your key selection criteria when you're applying for roles 100K plus. Okay. They're usually the leadership type roles, okay, regardless of what they're called. Now, quite some time ago, I used to be on a lot of government recruitment selection panels. I've also recruited in the corporate sector. It's always been internal recruitment. So I've been the closest to seeing your documents, and I know what's been expected. I've also seen these mistakes over and over, and I still get them a lot today when people come to me. Unfortunately, when you're the recruiter or the hiring manager, you often cull applications based on really minor things. And, those things can actually stop you, particularly if there's hundreds of people applying for a particular role. Even if there's 50 people applying for the role, it just makes it much easier for us if the first impression you make is a good one. I guess I always had in the back of my mind, I hope I'm not culling people who are actually quite good, but make these quite simple mistakes, which can actually eliminate them from the process. Okay. Now, what I wanted to say, I wanted to talk to you about 3 specific things that you're doing or could be doing that eliminates you. Now, the first thing is respond to the criteria. Now, if the application says to respond to the key selection criteria, you must do that. Okay. Some people choose not to do it. And I can tell you that if you don't respond to the key selection criteria when it's been requested, you are automatically, you're not shortlisted. You're automatically put in the bottom of the pile or in the bin. Okay, so you do what you tell them to. You follow those instructions, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard and witnessed, applications where a person has not responded to the criteria at all, and it's not just in a separate document. Sometimes if it's been asked in a cover letter, it's not there, but also it needs to they need to feature in your resume as well. Okay. I've had people who didn't even know that key selection criteria existed, okay, and didn't realize they were there until I pointed it out to them when quoting them or providing them a proposal for a job, and they're like, oh, what are they? So you need to know what they are. You need to actually respond to them if it asks you to. Now, I've had a lot of, hiring managers who say they don't even respond to the criteria. They're missing such a big opportunity and they're wondering why they're not even getting shortlisted. But that is the number one way to get out of not being shortlisted. Okay. And if you don't take the time to do it, why should they take the time to read your application? You really, especially if, attention to detail is something that's required of the role you're applying for, not paying attention to that detail is really going to get you out of that. So, follow the instructions. If it says 2-page, key selection criteria, that's what you've got to play with. You've got 400 words, you play within the 400 words, okay? It's not a trick. It's just so that they can manage how much they're reading, because they don't want to read 10 pages of your key selection criteria, so they may give you a limit. Also stick to that limit, okay? And you pretty much miss a huge opportunity to self-market yourself when you get extra, you're getting an extra opportunity to sell yourself, even though it may seem onerous to also respond to key selection criteria. It's actually you should see it as another opportunity to market yourself, okay? And be consistent with that marketing throughout all your documents. The second mistake I see people make is that they're not succinct. So just because you've been given 2 pages to write your key selection criteria, it doesn't mean that you need to use every inch of those 2 pages, okay? Use the 2 pages if what you are saying is helpful and shows them the outcomes you provide them. But if you're going to fill the 2 pages with waffle like you used to at uni because you think you need to fill a word criteria, and then you're waffling on and there's, things in there that they don't need to know or not responding to the criteria directly, don't put it in there. If it ends up being a page or a page and a half or a page and a bit, that's fine, as long as you've actually responded to the criteria in a way that demonstrates your brilliance. That's all that's required. They just don't want those copious pages, okay? All they need to know is that you are the right fit for the job. And the third mistake is is pitching to the right level for the roles. So what I see happen with people who are looking for roles 100K plus is that they're not pitching or presenting their documents in a way that's at that executive or management level. Okay, there is a different expectation for your document presentation and the contents within it for a role that's sort of team leader and upwards. As soon as you start applying for leadership positions, there's really a look, feel, and content that really need to hit the mark to apply for these types of roles. And if you're still providing them with a document that you used back when you were a project officer, that is not going to cut it, because not only is it going to look unprofessional, it's going to look, the content itself is not going to be explained in a way that's pitching to the level that you are speaking to, okay? You have to speak, you have to respond to the criteria at the band level that you're seeking. So a lot of these roles are leadership roles, so you have to talk about your experience in that frame, not in the frame of your previous roles, okay? So next time you're addressing your key selection criteria, keep these 3 points in mind, okay? Now, if you'd like a clear checklist on all the things that you should do before you write your key selection criteria, or while you're writing your key selection criteria, so that hiring managers are excited to see your application and shortlist you for the role that you're applying for, then you can download my interview landing key selection criteria checklist below. There's a link on the screen, but I will put it in the comments just to make it easier for you to click and get a hold of. And I also have some more tips in a blog that I have written, which also attaches this key selection criteria checklist for you. So feel free to download that after this live class. I will pop those details in the comments below. And that's really the end of my live today. So please don't make those mistakes. And if you need any help, you know where I am. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for coming.